Want to talk about your chat with Prime or not?
Yes, sir. We're live. Yes, sir. We'll talk about it, Brian. We talk about any and everything. We talk about new buffs, new combos, and everything. We might have even a new exclusive on this. So if you guys are tuned in right now, you already know what time it is. If you don't know what time it is, it's buff time. Let's get it in, baby. What's up, Brian? How you doing? Oh, did we get a freeze? Brian, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I'm good, Chico. How you doing? It's been a little bit since we've done one of these.
Yes, indeed. We're back now. We're back and we're bringing them with some heat. Some good convo and good information for them on this episode right here. If you just tuned in, from the last episode we have like 4 new commits now, including the one we just got before we came on here live. And we may have even an exclusive for you guys. So stay tuned for what's to come next as we're going to discuss the newest Colorado Buffaloes. And Brian, first of all, give us a recap. Let us know what's been going on in your world and on your end out in Colorado.
Yeah, obviously with spring football over, there hasn't been a whole lot going on other than just monitoring the transfer portal, and then lots of little league baseball going on, and high school track meets, and lots of dad duties, things like that. So yeah, it's been fun.
Understand those. So
How about for you?
actually, those are the fun times. Yeah, those are the fun times. I've been doing the same thing in
Yeah.
dad mode. Got some more things planned for this weekend. We're gonna be going to
Mhm.
a third birthday party, things of that nature. So probably gonna be getting a couple extra pounds put on with the birthday food and things like that this weekend. So, but we have some things to at least be happy about the new commits for the bus. I think last time we talked about R.J. Johnson coming on from the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now we have big Ethan Boyd coming over from Michigan State. Also
Mhm.
have a cornerback coming over from Furman, Ivan Yates. Have a linebacker that just signed on, of course. And who am I missing out on? I might be missing out on one.
That's it. Yeah, those
Okay,
are the
that's it.
four
So that's four
since our last
right
time.
there.
Yeah.
All right, so those
So
4, and anybody just tuning in, as we see Alex in the chat saying Chainsaw is legit. He from Opopka, Florida, a legendary high school program
mhm.
in Central Florida, definitely, and he may be joining us on the show midway through. So y'all stay tuned and see if y'all can get some of his first comments after becoming a Colorado Buff officially, signing with Coach Prime. Matter of fact, what do those 3 newest guys? What can they bring to Colorado, and what are we looking for them, expected for them from this season?
Well, I'm going to start off with when Coach Prime was asked a few weeks ago, it was like 2-3 weeks ago, what they're looking for in the portal, and the first thing he said was depth, and I think that's what these 3 guys bring is depth, and if they can compete and push for starting roles, that's even better. But I think with Ethan Boyd, I think they're fairly set on the offensive line, but Ethan Boyd, you bring in a guy that's played at Michigan State, that's got some size to him, and he's certainly going to be pushing for a starting job. And then, Ivan Yates, who knows? I mean, we think they're set at corner, but you can never have enough talented corners. And this is a kid that was a starter at Furman. I know it's a smaller school, but he had a lot of success at Furman. And if he can come in and compete for that starting job or some playing time, that's huge. And then, of course, you got Johnny Chaney. I had to look up the last name. Johnny Chaney coming in. That again, another SWAC guy added to this team that was highly productive at Florida A&M.
Ain't gonna wake up at these.
Was I believe second team all SWAC I think this last year. So he had a great season, and if nothing else, depth. But I think they also bring in some guys that can definitely play.
Most definitely. Excuse me. I would say this on that offensive line. Bringing in the big fella from Michigan and Homo from Villanova, that's going to definitely bring up that competition level. You're getting rid of some guys who are further down on the depth chart who you didn't see breaking into that playing role. So you bring in now some guys who have that playing experience and who coming in looking to compete and expecting to play, so to speak. They have that level of talent to be able to get on the football field. So maybe you go from a guy who you've seen enough of and you know what they're going to bring, to now you go to a guy who can, just bring in another guy who we can work with, who have more of the tools or the measurables that we're looking for. Just like the cornerback from Furman, 6 foot, 195
Mhm.
or so pounds, good size for a cornerback. Exactly what they're looking for. They're saying, okay, we can probably pass or lose out on a guy in the transfer portal who might not be our prototype, 5'9", 5'10". He might be fast or whatever,
Mhm.
but we don't see him breaking into the playing rotation. So let's try out or bring in another guy who's a former starter. Might be at a smaller school, but he has that playing experience, like you said, and he has the size and the build that we're looking for. So I like what Coach Prime is doing from the bottom of the roster to the top.
Yeah, and if you remember back, his press conference back on April 18th, he was asked about the portal, and, you and I talked about it then, but, he emphasized linebackers. He
Yeah.
said there was gonna be multiple, and, he said there's gonna be a couple linebackers, and now they've got 2. Nakai Hill-Green, committed last week, and now you got Johnny Chaney today, so there's your 2 linebackers that add to that mix, and, it's telling that, they didn't fully believe in what they had as far as whether it's starting group or depth or whatever it was. They felt like they needed some more talent there. They go out and grab 2 more guys, and that competition is just going to ramp up. I mean, I feel like Levanta Bentley has got a spot sealed up, but beyond that, I have no idea. Is it going to be Trevor Woods? Is it going to be, I mean, Brendan Gant is a guy we forget about. He's in there right now. Is it going to be
Right.
either of these 2 new transfers? Is it going to be Jeremiah Brown? Wester? There's some guys now that can compete for that spot.
I like it though. That's what we were looking for. Multiple
Yep.
guys from the top to the bottom who can compete and actually get on the football field. Not so much of projects, but guys who played at other levels or other schools,
Yeah.
and now they're looking for even more playing time. And it's all about now the cream going to rise to the top. We're going to throw it's like having a bunch of pit bulls and you throw some meat out there. I'm going to see which one going to be the dog, the big dog, the runt, or they're going to naturally take their order uh, yeah, once that food is thrown out there, and that opportunity is going to be that food, so to speak. So I like what we have, and we're looking, like I said, we see Johnny Chaney, aka the Chainsaw, possibly joining the show. Y'all stay tuned. All right, stay tuned. What I would say here also, as I pulled up this on the screen right here, Big Zach Owens. We kind of hit on him last week, but
Mhm.
the big red shirt, sophomore out of Covington, Georgia. Uh, right tackle, left tackle. Where do you see him playing at? And I know you guys did an article on where do you see him playing and bringing to the offensive line.
Yeah, I think he can play guard or tackle, depending on where they need him most. And a big body like that, you like having that at guard. You wonder with that size how well are his feet. Like can he
Yeah,
move well enough to play that tackle spot? Certainly at 6'6", you got the height for it, but can you move well enough to play tackle? And I think either guard or tackle, but you definitely bring in some much needed depth there. And I will tell you this: I mean, one of the things I like about the offensive linemen they're bringing in is they're bringing in some young depth, and there's
yeah.
there's always a lot of talk about, is Deion Sanders going to be here very long? Is he going to be here past this year? Things like that. Well, when you see some of these transfers, and not all of them, but when you see some of these transfers come in, like a Zach Owens, that he played 1 year at Clemson, he's got a lot of playing time left, and so this is a guy that can sit for a year behind some veteran offensive linemen and be ready to step into a starting role next year when a bunch of those guys graduate. And so they brought in some young offensive linemen, especially that they can groom a little bit. And I think that might be something that Coach Phil Loholt told Prime, like, hey, give me some young guys because we got to get ready for next year too. And so they haven't just grabbed these veteran linemen, which they needed, but they're grabbing some of these young guys too that they can mold a little bit.
Big body, big Pat from Texas, big guy
Yep.
from Clemson right here.
Mhm.
Then you bring in a couple of guys with experience like Hummel and Boyd. So Boyd is a big body too. He's going to be interesting to see how he pans out on this offensive line. What position they're going to stick him at, and where he's going to be the most productive at. Because we've seen him at Michigan State, but he battled with a big right tackle who started most of the time at Spencer, who's now at Oklahoma, where Big Phil Loho just came from. But boy, I think he has the talent from the film I watched. I think he has the talent, the capabilities to
Mhm.
be a starter, but he just got behind such a great player that he didn't get the opportunity. Now he feels like, hey, I can come over here and in a position that's basically wide open, other than the guy who went through the spring is what he's thinking. Khalil Benson came over from Indiana. Now I
Yeah.
can come in and compete with him, and we'll see how how the depth chart falls from there. So great point about that. We got some offensive linemen who will be there for a while. Also, you mentioned Coach Prime said that a lot of people question how long will he be in Colorado, and it was just dropped on the Well Off video and a couple clips that he said he looks like he can be in Colorado another 10 years or at least 10
Mhm.
years. He even hinted on the DNVR show that he wanted to have his face back there on the Flatirons. So that means that you have to do something for a while significantly and win some championships to get something like that. So you can tell where his mindset is with all the people he's brought up here around him. How do you feel about hearing Coach Prime saying that, hey, dog, I'm 10 more years. Ain't nobody gonna be here for another 10 years, dog. So they better get comfortable seeing this face. How do you
Yeah,
feel about that?
I'd be really surprised if he's here for 10 years. I mean, that would be one of the longest tenured coaches in CU history. Uh, you know, I don't know. I mean, I tend to believe that it's not going to be a super long tenure for Coach Prime. Uh, you know, I'm curious to see what it looks like for him, when his sons are no longer involved, because he's always coached his sons, and how much does he want to keep coaching? We don't know the answer to that. I don't know if he knows what it's going to be like when his sons aren't around. I think 10 years is a long time, but you know, uh, I think that he's a guy that certainly he likes living in Colorado, and I think that he likes the environment. We know he loves challenges. I could see him. There's a lot of people believe that he's done after this year. I could see him coming back just to show people, look, I told you I can do this. I'm going to be up for a challenge here. 10 years, that's a long time. I mean, we know he's got some health issues. He's either 56 or 57. He's going to be maybe 57 later this year. 10 years. I don't know if we see him coaching into 66, 67 years old, but we'll see. It's gonna be interesting to see what kind of challenge he wants to take on.
Well, at least we can give him 1 year. So let's say 9 years or 8.5 years. And that'll give him a 10-year total. Time served, so to speak. But
Well, I'll say
I can
this:
see it.
if
Uh-huh.
he's here that long, it's because he's winning. Because at
Oh,
some
yeah, of
point,
course.
if you're not winning, even if you're Deion Sanders, administration has got to say, all right, we got to go in a different direction because you're not winning. So if he's there that long, that means CU's winning.
I mean, I think that's the plan, of course. I think,
Yeah.
to be here or to be in Boulder that long is because you have plans to win and to be successful. I think honestly, I think he's eyeing a legacy post football, post commentating and analyst. He wants a legacy that's going to live on probably even more than that in the
Mhm.
coaching world because it's impacting the kids. It's bringing everything together that he's kind of built up over all these 25, 30 years that he's been in the spotlight. I think this is the culmination of all of those things, and he wants to be looked at like a Nick Saban in the coaching world. And people might say, "Ah, you can't do that. That can't be done. Nick been coaching forever." Well, if he wins some championships, dog, if he
Yeah.
wins some championships, which is not out of reach, it might not be there with his sons there, but his sons are not the only guys that are influenced by him. This is,
Yeah.
in my opinion, this is cultural, and it goes beyond race. It's cultural, and I think that people are going to want
Yeah.
to come play for him, shine next to him, and help him win because they know what can come with that. So I think he's going to be there for
Well,
eight to 10 more years in my book. I think because of what I feel like he wants to accomplish.
Well, I will say this, and again, I don't know how long he's going to be there, but I will say this: the one thing that I've learned about Coach Prime that I think is a misnomer about him is when people say that he's about himself and he's only there to help himself and his kids. I think clearly he's doing what he can to put Shador and Shiloh in good positions, but I've talked to plenty of people plenty of kids that have played for him to know that he is not just impacting his kids, and
Oh
that's the thing when the Athletic article comes out and these things come out, that you know that sort of put in spotlight, the harsh nature of college football. It always comes out that like he's just this ruthless guy. He's here for his kids. If people would talk to the right kids, if they talk to all the kids, you'd find out a ton of people that love the guy and feel like their lives have been impacted by it. Go talk to Tyler Brown, and find
yeah,
out, how much he's impacted him. I'll always remember a story Tyler Brown told me when I was in Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl, and he told me, he said, "Look, I was really struggling with anxiety this year. This was 2022." And he said, Coach
yes,
Prime saw it a couple weeks into the season and brought me into his office. And so, what's going on with you? He told Coach Prime about his anxiety. And he said that started a weekly thing where it was every Wednesday or whatever day of the week it was, where the two of them would meet and just kind of talk about life and how things were going. And he goes, that got me through that year. And Tyler Brown was an FCS All-American that year. And he goes, that's why I was. Coach Prime got me through it. He goes, I love that man. And you see Tyler Brown was one of the first people to defend him during that whole social media thing last week.
oh
And
yeah,
it's not just Tyler Brown. Uh, Jeremiah Brown, why is he still here after he didn't play a ton last year? Because
mm-hmm.
he's impacted by Coach Prime. Athletic trainers that followed him
Yeah.
from Jackson State to here that have told me stories about how much he's meant to them and the impact he's had. So yeah, he's not only about himself. Yes, he's very confident. Yes, I know that a lot of what he's doing helps himself, but he's not all about himself. And I think that's a misnomer about Coach Prime.
And even I listened to a couple podcasts by mistake, should I say, but it was on the major networks, and they talk about how he's just so loud, and he's just. I'm like, what? This is what y'all complaining about? He's just so. And when has he actually been loud? And other than coaching on the football field, like, is it loud because of the chains, or is it loud because of the cowboy hat, or because actually yelling? Like we don't see that. It's not like he's walking around saying, "Hey, me, look at me, look at
Yeah.
me," in a way. But I don't know. Everybody's gonna be rubbed the wrong way. But I heard a quote. Shouts out to Corey, the great Corey Holcomb, as he said, as he said, you can't worry about the haters. They're gonna always be there. They're gonna be strong. And as
Yeah.
long as you being successful, and as long as you be successful, the haters are gonna grow.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be there trying to kill them all. Shouts out to Adam, who's back from his trip. He's on Twitter now, just posted saying, "Hey, listen, sorry, CU fans, but if I try to attack or answer, basically, if I try to answer every negative comment, I'll be here all day." So from this point, he kind of threw up the white flag and said, "I'm not answering it." And that's what you have to do, man. You have to block out
Yeah.
the stuff, block out the haters, and keep it moving, keep it pushing, because obviously you're doing something correctly.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is that the bigger you are, the more haters you're going to have. And look at LeBron James. Who has more haters than LeBron James? But I'm not going to get into a GOAT debate here, but he's clearly one of the best to ever play, and he's never had off the court issues, things like that. Yet people hate him. Caitlin Clark,
Right.
right? She's been doing her thing for 4 years at Iowa, but this year there's a lot more attention. There's you have haters coming out of the woodwork, like they didn't even watch Caitlin Clark before last year, or before this year. So the bigger
Yeah.
you get, the more haters you're going to have. Coach Prime is huge, and so he's going to have a lot of haters. But I've always said there's a lot more people that love Coach Prime than hate him, but
Yeah.
the haters are the loud ones, and they're the ones that'll get on social media, and they've got apparently the haters have the time to get on social media and express their hate.
And you better watch out where Coach Prime has the time, because he will address those haters.
That's
So
right.
hopefully he don't have too much time on his hands coming up soon. As we said before, we have some good commits coming in. Over now, I saw a stat. Over 41 guys have left the program. 36, probably 37 now, have already come in. If you
Mhm.
look at some of the other programs out there who've lost 30, 40 players, they don't have 30 plus transfer guys coming in. Now, that could be by
Right.
choice, or that could be by, you know, by the players' decisions to go play for them Um, what do you feel about that? Are the coaches, you think, making a conscious decision to try not to go and get players from the transfer portal? Um, or what is their mindset? What's their philosophy on it right now?
Well, that could also be that, rather than bringing in, 37 transfers and only 10 high school guys, maybe those other teams have got, 20 transfers and 20 high school guys or whatever it is. And so it could be a difference of philosophy and, um, but I've always said I don't have a problem with the way Coach Prime is building this roster because he was hired to make the Buffs better. And I think, and Adam says the same thing. He and I are in agreement. I think you are too. That if you look at every transfer cycle, and he's had 3 or 4 since he's been here, the roster's better after each transfer cycle under Coach Prime.
Exactly.
And so, when you're hired to do it, when you're hired to come in here and do the job of making the team better, that's what he's done. No, they're not an elite team right now. No, they're not a top 10 team. I don't know if I would not put them as a national title contender this year. Maybe they'll surprise me, but they're much better, and,
Yeah.
I think if you're 2 years in after a 1-11 disaster and you're 2 years in and you're going to a bowl game, that's impressive. And so he's
Very
been
much
better
so.
after every transfer cycle.
And that's all I'm saying, man. Get better after every transfer cycle, after every recruiting cycle, wherever time you can get better in. And I feel like he's doing it unapologetically. He's not trying to cuddle some of these players
Mhm.
now. Hey man, listen, I've seen you 6 weeks now, 4 weeks, 13 practices, however long I've seen you. I've seen you jogging back to the huddle every time you're the last one. If we can get rid of
Yeah.
you now, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of you now, because little things like that is what Coach Prime been looking at, especially with the newcomers that's coming in. The ones who came in
Mhm.
before the spring up until now, that was an evaluation period. If they're still there,
Mhm.
you can bet the bottom dollar that they've done a lot of things correctly, more than incorrectly. If he's sitting there and evaluating them, they're jogging back to the huddle. They're on time to meetings. They're yes sir, no sir. They're respectable men. They're dressing properly. They're not walking around in the tank tops and stuff like that. So all
Yeah.
of those things matter to Coach Prime at the end of the day. We will be having, seeing snippets of it dropping on the pregame show channel, but more will be dropping on my channel and other channels coming soon from the exclusive that we did have with Coach Prime. And I will share this from what I've asked him, because I asked him specifically about the process of the recruiting situation, like, I'm sorry, the transfer portal situation. When the player wants to leave the program, do they just leave? Do they go talk to their position coach? Do they let Coach Prime know? What do they do and what are they supposed to do? And Coach Prime basically saying, dog, you wouldn't believe. Some of them just get up and leave, dog. Some of them leave and don't say anything. Some of them just enter the program. And what are we supposed to do from there? How are we supposed to help you? Why would you jump in the portal without having a plan or talk to somebody or use all of these resources that we have in here, 120 plus years of NFL experience, and you just gonna jump in the portal? Dog, something's wrong. You get bad advice, or that's just totally crazy to me. And to hear that, it surprised me. I thought that
Yeah.
these guys would know to take some type of steps to enter the transfer portal. So, I don't know. What do you think about that? Hearing that, and like I said, the interview will be dropping soon.
It doesn't surprise me. In fact, it reminded me of a story, kind of a funny story now, that Adam and I still talk about because it's funny to this day. I won't mention the kid's name, but it was several years ago, um, 2 or 3 coaches ago. Colorado brought in a guy from. He went to high school in California, but he was from overseas somewhere, Australia or something like that, and so they had all these hurdles. They had to get the visa and all this stuff. They bring him in, and this is back when they still had 2-a-days. So he gets in August camp, and he does his first 2-a-day. So they're not even in pads yet, and so they do walkthrough and all that stuff. Does his first practice. They go to lunch, and they come out for the second practice, and the kid's not there.
Oh yeah.
And the coaches are like, "What the heck?" And so they go through practice. And the kid was still staying in a hotel because he had just gotten there. Like he hadn't even been in town a week. And so after practice and everything, his position coach goes to visit him at the hotel, finds out he had checked out of the hotel, had converted his money, because he's from out of the U.S. Had converted his money and left. And on the plane, like, bought a plane ticket, and on the plane, text coach said, "Sorry, coach," and was just gone. Never heard from him again.
Right. He
So
realized he knew it from the get go. It's not for him.
yeah, not for him. So it doesn't surprise me that there's kids that do that, because I've heard those things before. I would think that the most part, the coaches know that a kid's unhappy, and maybe there's been a, people often say that these coaches are cutting these players, and that's not always the case. And maybe sometimes they're harsh to them and said, "Look, you're not going to play here. We don't think that you're cutting the mustard, so to speak, and so
Right.
you're gonna have to move on." But there might be times too where a coach says, "Look, you got to do this, and this if you're even going to think about getting playing time," and the kid just says, "I don't want to do that," and so he leaves. And so I think there's a lot more of that goes on than even a player getting cut. And I think that when people talk about Coach Prime cutting 53 players, I don't think he cut 53 players.
Yeah.
I think he was harsh with 85 players, and 53 of them said, "No way, I'm not hanging around for this." I think it's very different to be cut than it is. It's not like NFL cut day where it's you have that list of guys that get called on the office and say, "Sorry, we got to let you go."
Right. Nah, totally different ballgame. And like you said, Coach Prime came in from the get go, and it's like you separate the men from the boys as fast as you can. And if I could do it just by the tone of my voice, same way you control your kids in a way. You walk in that thing and you let them know Daddy here. You're not saying Daddy here. If y'all having problems up in here, it's about to be rectified right now. You raise your voice to let them know that, hey, man, there's a new sheriff in town, and a lot of them going to get out of the way as soon as they can. So, hey,
well, and I think a lot of young people in life don't understand how much the little things matter, and how much their bosses or their coaches or whatever are paying attention to. Are you going to class? Are you taking care of this? There's cameras everywhere, and we're not just talking about Coach Prime, but like at practice, every team has cameras everywhere. They're going to see if you're cutting a corner somewhere. I remember when I played high school football 400 years ago. We had to do this this running thing at the end of practice. They called them Crazy Texans. You start at the back of one end zone, run to the back of the other end zone, and along the way, the coach is going to blow a whistle. And at each whistle, like that one might be push-ups. You have to get down. You have to do 15 push-ups, and that might happen 5 times throughout those 120 yards. Well, they would stand there and watch particular kids, and if they saw a kid do 14 push-ups, they'd blow the whistle again.
Oh yeah,
the kid would try to get away with it again, do 14 or 13. They blow the whistle again, and so there's always somebody watching, and you might get away with it every now and then. But I think a lot of people don't realize, you better take care of business, and especially as you get to these higher levels.
I will share this, and this is about shout out to Justin Mayers, big Justin Mayers, number 66 in the chat right now, joining on. Y'all show some love to Jake Mayers. I will say this,
awesome young man, by the way.
Yeah. Shouts out to Mayers. I appreciate him. Prime did say this, and that's why I mentioned the jogging back to the huddle, because he specifically said, I think he said on another interview, that he assigned a coach to watch a particular player and said, just let me know because I want to know about his habits. Let me know if he's the last one to the line. Let me know if he's the last one in the huddle. Let me know when we jog off the field if he's the last one. Just let me know what you see. And he said every time that one guy was the last player to the huddle on the field to get lined up. If I can cut you now, I'm gonna cut you now, and I'm gonna see about what I can bring in, to be better than that, because that's not the standard. If we can get this much better, then that's what we'll do, and I applaud him for it, to having being no nonsense. So shouts out to him, man.
Yeah.
All the newcomers, all the new buffs, everybody in the chat. Shouts out to you guys. Make sure y'all put y'all city and your state and your country in the chat. Let Brian know how y'all checking in, where y'all checking in from. I already know. I see you in the chat. Let Brian know.
Well, and Chico too. I help coach my son's baseball team, and 13 and 14-year-olds, and as coaches, we do the same thing. Whereas we talk about certain kids that are like, man, this kid just doesn't hustle after the ball.
Yeah.
And so if we need somebody out in right field or whatever, it's like, yeah, let's put this kid out there because we know he's going to hustle. And or particular kids, like we know this kid is always the instigator when the team's goofing off. So
Yep.
let's get him out, and things like
Yep.
that. And so it's all those little things that it's
The
not
coaches,
about
the
talent
coaches know.
sometimes.
Like you
Yeah.
said, the coaches know. And Prime, like Prime said, Prime know these kids like the back of their hands. I remember you just
Yep.
brought up that made me think of a story. I know you guys came for the info, but you stayed for the stories. So here's a story for you real quick. I remember being on my middle school bus in the back, and there was some commotion going on, and I wasn't necessarily, involved with it. But the coach turned around and said, Chico, come to the front. Coach, it wasn't even me. He said, but I know you had something to do with it. So come sit up here with me, right? There was no more commotion in the back. He said, and 5 or 10 minutes later, he said, see, that's why I brought you to the front. You might not have been laughing at that time, but you had something to do with it going on. So come over here and sit with me at the front. So your coaches know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
That's right. I like this podcast today. This is all story time today.
It's story time today. As we're trying to hold, let me see, because I'm doing this on my phone today. So I literally chainsaw. If you hear me, I can't see a text right now. So I sent you the link to where you can join on. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it in the chat once again. So the link will be in the chat for Chainsaw to join on. Just the mayors, you can join on. Anybody got some comments, they can join on. We got a few more minutes left in the podcast. Let me see here. Shepard was at the spring game. Anybody you saw at the spring game? Let's take a step back one time. Let us know. Who did you see at the spring game? Any recruits, any players, any words, anything you could share from the spring game with us?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Be honest with you, it was so rainy. I was paying attention just what was what that I was trying to stay dry and paying attention to who was there, but I know there was obviously a ton of recruits there. Mantrez Walker was out there that weekend, and just had a chance to catch up with him yesterday, and we texted back and forth and sort of did a text interview, but he loved it. I mean, he talked about the atmosphere was really cool. So there was a lot of guys that were there. Maybe not the best environment, second year in a row, as we talked about, there wasn't great weather for them, but still the guys enjoyed it and had a great time. So that says a lot about the program there that they've got there, is that guys are still enjoying it despite the weather not being ideal.
Right. And with all the stuff around it, man, Prime really stepped it up. For the spring games, especially for all the colleges around the country. I see them trying to do the same thing. Shouts out to Coach Reyes. I meant to give a shout out to Coach Devin Rispers. Devin Rispers, of course, from Florida, who came over. He's from FAMU, came over to Colorado. Coach Prime brought him over. Everybody knows the story, but he's been one of the main guys bringing in these dogs. You see him on social media, people calling him the dog catcher. And now he brings in another guy from Florida State, one of his guys from Florida State at the linebacker spot, like we said earlier, and Chainsaw Chaney joining the squad at the linebacker position. Linebackers probably might be filled now with Hill Green, Chaney, Wester. Then you got Trevor Woods and Jeremiah Brown and Levante Bentley. All those different skill sets, though, like we saw. I meant to share this with you. Chaney, really good in space. I think he's going to bring that dynamic to the team to where in those pass downs he can really get out there and cover those screens, make the tackles on the wide receivers, on smaller guys who get the ball in space. He's a linebacker who can make those tackles. Look like he probably is a former safety. Second on the team in tackles last year with over 70, 7.5 for a loss. So he's a productive, rangy, sideline to sideline player that's going to be a great piece in addition on that defense. But my question is, I hate to bring this up, but it's obvious. He's wearing number 28 in this video. And we know we got a fan favorite wearing number 28 on the defensive side and being Venicev. Although Ben is a walk on, some people might say, well, the walk on will give up the number. Some people say, well, he's a new guy, let him pick another number. But we saw him wearing 28. Doesn't mean that's going to be the number he's going to wear. Is that an
Yeah.
issue? How would that be handled on a Brian Howell led team?
I don't know. I think for me, I would let Ben Finnesith keep that number if he wants it, because he's been here, he's gone through it. He's put in the work so far to this point for not only the year and a half that Coach Prime's been here, but even before that. And so I would let Ben Finnesith keep that number if that's what he wants. Even though he's a walk-on, he's a veteran guy on the team. I think that he deserves that number if he wants it. What do you think?
Walk on or not, veteran guy on the team, putting in that work. He obviously done something right to still be on the team. One of those guys who was here when Coach Prime came. So I like that. I sometimes have an issue seeing linebackers wearing those numbers other than 50. I'm still old school, dog. I'm still old school. So I want to go back to wearing 50s so we know that you're a linebacker. 40
Brian
is okay.
Bosworth. How about Brian Bosworth and the 44?
I was about to say 40 is okay too,
Yeah.
So 40s, 50s, give me those at linebacker. I think Alabama started having so many linebackers that they let them wear 30 numbers, and then now you see them wearing 20 numbers, and it just looked funny to me. Although, like S represents said, the number don't matter. The player makes the number, not the other way around.
I agree with that, but some players are really attached to those numbers.
Yeah, it makes. I saw a clip where Michael Jordan was in the All-Star locker room recently, and Michael Jordan famously wore that number 45. And back in the day in the All-Star games, they used to give you different numbers from what you might have worn because other people might have that same number, right? They give it to the elder statesman. So we saw Alonzo Mourning, who wore number 33, but he had number 45 in the All-Star game. And Michael Jordan said, oh, you're wearing that bad luck number. That's a bad luck number right there, man. So even the greatest players have things like that about numbers. So, we'll see. Rodney said 52 for Chainsaw. We shall see. Will anybody be wearing number 2 on the defensive side?
Ooh, I don't know. I think you got to be. I think you got to be Sanders to do that, and you already got Shiloh on 21.
Man, I think it's so much NIL around the number 2 that it's almost like it's licensed and copyrighted now. He might be the last one to wear it if he does what he's supposed to do. They might go about retiring that thing. It was another number 2 that was really cold blooded at Colorado before Chenault, right?
Yeah, Laviska was pretty darn good.
He was pretty.
But if you're the number 1 pick in the draft as a quarterback and you were number 2, that kind of trumps whatever Laviska Shenault did. But it's hard for me to see somebody else wearing number 2, even though you get the duplicate numbers. I can't imagine anybody else wearing number 2.
Right. All right, y'all. Let me know if 2 will be retired. Put your comments in the chat right now, and so on.
I'm curious if he'll even let somebody wear number 1 after Cromani had it, and maybe didn't live up to the number 1.
Maybe he can dangle that up and hold it and say, "Hey, if anybody want number 1, we're gonna see what you do at practice. This is gonna be the one number that's gonna really be fought for. Right here, this number 1, because I'm sure everybody wants it. More than one person wants it. But we did see him in the clip today saying that, hey, we got another recruit, and I got the number that he wants. I got the number that he wants. So, maybe, and a lot of people don't realize, man. Listen, man, everybody don't get treated the same, but everybody get treated fairly. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's from a coach's point of view. All right. Look like I have my guy trying to check in, guys, but as I also have the stuff going on outside, let me see if I can get him to check in. We might have to start another live, Brian, to get him on here.
Okay.
Let me see. But as for now, that we're going to cut this live right here. You guys make sure y'all join us on my page and Brian's page whenever you get a chance. All right. We'll be back with more with an exclusive with the Chainsaw, the newest buff, Mr. Chainsaw Cheney. All right. We'll be back with more. Thank y'all for joining us on BuffTime Podcast for now. Brian and Chico. Brian, you got anything to leave us with?
No, I think we're good. We'll leave it
All
with
right,
that.
we're good to go. Chainsaw coming up next. Stay tuned.